That's right, she owes me 2 hours of my life back from this beautiful poster.
It is a really impressive poster.
It was over an hour this morning, and I didn't finish until halfway through first period, and I had already printed half of the stuff last night, so. All right.
You did a good job.
What are the 3 different kinds of accounts, guys? This is worksheet 9, side B, number 4. Okay, a simple savings account, and it's the amount of money in that account, which is earning 1% interest when we get there. Okay, then there's the amount of money in a CD that's earning 3.5%. And there's the amount of money in some kind of municipal bond that's earning 4.3%. So did you come up with any of the equations? Go ahead, try me.
I said 1x plus 3.5y.
Almost. You got to get rid of the percent sign and move the decimals over. And this is the interest earned plus the interest earned plus the interest earned, and it said yielding a total of $182.50 in interest. So that's what Claire said. Perfect. Then what? Missed an easy one. Yeah, Kristen? There is a goofy one down here, yep, that has to do with the municipal bond was 5 times the amount of money invested in the simple savings account. I think this is what Kirsten said. What do you think, guys? Bond is 5 times savings, right? Perfect. Okay, Kate says this is the one we skipped. Katie, sorry. Yes, Katie said this is the one we skipped. Does that seem like an easy one we got? They total $5,000? Okay. I'm just going to review this real quick. This is a good time to do it. You could do this putting it all in one matrix. If you rearranged this one, it would be negative 5x plus z equals 0. So you would have a negative 5, a 0y, and a 1z equals 0. Does that seem okay? Okay, and then you would do our REF. What is the other option that involves using your calculator to do a matrix? Yes, does anybody remember how it goes if you use inverse? But you have to type it in 2 separate matrices. And then you would do this matrix is inverse times matrix B, which is this solution system over here. Did anybody get the answers? I think it's like 500, 2,000, and 2,500. Is that right? If you do it this way, you will get a single matrix that looks like this. If you do it this way, everybody's clear on that? Seem okay?
Yeah.
I am not going to know for any problem on the test which way you did it, okay? But there is a problem that says solve using our REF. I'm not going to know the difference. There's also a problem that says solve using the inverse. I'm not going to know if you used our REF, but it does have this next to the question. It says write as a matrix multiplication. and it looks like this. Do you know what that's asking you to put in there then? Okay. I just want to make sure everybody's, no? Okay. I printed you the notes, but I didn't put them on your desk, sorry. So what we do is we take out the coefficients without the x, y, and the z. So we just write down this whole side over here without the x, y, and z. Because then, let me think about this for a minute. Remember how matrix multiplication went row times column? Kind of remember that? So if I multiplied 0.01 times x plus 0.035 times y plus 0.043 times z, I get 182.50. That's why it works that way, okay? So then you take out, the next one was x plus y plus z equals 5,000. So when it says rewrite as matrix multiplication, all you're doing is taking out the variables for the first matrix. This matrix is the variables, and then this one is the answers, okay? What you would do then is you would say matrix A is a 3 by 3, and you'd put all this junk in, okay? And then you'd go to matrix B, and it would be a 3 by 1, and you would put all this junk in it, okay? And then you go to the home screen and you put the name of matrix A, and then you hit that same button that has matrix on, and it says to the -1 power. And then you do times, and then you go back and put the name of matrix B on the screen, and it would give you just the answers that were equivalent to X, Y, and Z. It's equivalent to doing it RREF though. But the only thing that matters, Riley, is that the order matters. You have to do inverse of A times B. You can't do B times inverse of A, because matrix multiplication is not switchable, okay? Any questions? All right, spent a lot of time on that one, but that was good review of a lot of things. Something else for the homework check today? Anybody have a question still on something for the homework check? No? Then I'm going to go ahead and talk about some things on worksheet 13. Does that sound okay? So this is some more, largely this is more linear programming. There are some that are just write the equation questions. I'm going to go through number 1 kind of quickly because it's not on the test, all right? But it's good review for the final. Do you know how to graph this equation? It's a little parabola down -2. You could type in, find some ordered pairs if you had to. But it's a little parabola that opens down here. It looks like this. It would be solid because it has an or equal to. How do I decide if I'm going to shade inside or outside? Which you don't have to do shading on the test, on the final, but test a point like 0, 0 is clearly inside, right? If I put 0, 0 in, I get 0 is greater than -2. Is that true? Think hard. Okay. Because somehow when it has a negative number, everybody gets so confused. All right. The second equation is a line that starts at +1 and goes up to and over 1. So it's doing something, vaguely like that. Not really, but we'll pretend. It also says y is less than that, so it's below. So I did a really crummy job, but the shape is something like this. So if I pulled it out, it would look kind of like, not like that. Just kidding. Something like that? Oh, that's so bad. The only reason I want to talk about the shape for just 1 second is that in calc, you will study things like this because you will talk about what happens if I were to rotate that shape around the y-axis. So you would get like a thimble looking thing. okay? And then on the inside, it would actually have a cone that had been peeled out of the middle there. And then you will find surface area and volume of things like that funny shape. Because that's how they make tons of things, manufacture things, is they rotate something around, a shape around something to make it have symmetry. And then if you were going to manufacture this, you'd obviously need to know how much volume it had, how much material it needed, and that kind of thing. And it has to do, when you start rotating things, it has to do with rate of change, and that's what calculus is a lot about. All right, we're going to talk about fertilizing the yard. A fertilizer has some nitrogen. Every fertilizer that we're looking at buying has some nitrogen and some fertilizer or some phosphorus in it. We need at least 180 units of nitrogen, okay? That means less than or greater than? At least that much means greater than or equal to, okay? And that's nitrogen. And then 90 units of phosphorus, at least, again. Okay. We can't have negative, right? But we'll get to that in a second. A fertilizer costs $10 a bag. Fertilizer A, sorry. So brand A fertilizer is $10 a bag and has 4 units of nitrogen and 1 of phosphorus. Brand B costs $5 a bag and has 1 unit of nitrogen and 1 unit of phosphorus. How many bags of each should be bought to minimize the cost? Okay, what are we buying? But what are we going to call X and Y? That's the confusion. We're buying how many bags of brand A and how many bags of brand B. Each bag of A has some of each nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay. Okay, can we get rid of that price sentence? Because that, if we get rid of those numbers, that would help a little bit. What are the numbers for price? 10 for A and 5 for Y. And that would give us our cost. Notice it says we're to do what this time? Minimize the cost, okay? Could we buy 1,000 bags of each and have enough nitrogen and phosphorus? We'd probably kill the yard, right? But is that going to minimize the cost? What's going to happen this time? I'm just foreshadowing. Oh, thank you. Yes, that makes me very happy because I was like wondering where they were. Oh, that was nice of you to bring it down. Thank you.
Is that for the staff appreciation?
Yeah, for Austin Navicus' dad. We bought shirts at the fundraiser. Oh, sorry. It's above this line and above this line. So it's going to be, remember I talked about yesterday, there's going to be an unbounded area?
Yeah.
This is an unbounded one where it goes up. You could buy infinite bags of fertilizer and have enough nitrogen and phosphorus, but you won't minimize the cost. All right, that was a little bit of foreshadowing what we're going to see when we do this. We got to write the equations first, though. This is real confusing to me because I kind of want to go 4x plus 1y equals $10 or something crazy, okay? But remember, the first sentence has all the nitrogen information. So when we buy a bag of X, how much nitrogen do we get out of it?
4 units. Whoa.
Okay. And when we buy a bag of B, how much nitrogen do we get?
1.
Okay. Then we have a separate sentence that has to do with phosphorus. We go back and we look when it says A, says we get how much phosphorus? 1 every time we buy a bag of A, and 1 every time we buy a bag of B. Okay. I'm going to go kind of quick because I think we can handle this. If we're talking about this, we put in a 0, we'd get out a 180. If we put in a 0 for the y, we'd have to divide by 4, which I think would be 45. So 0, 180, and 45, 0. I'm doing a really rough sketch and a really big dot. Okay. This one, somebody give me 2 ordered pairs there. Quick. X plus y equals 90 means?
0, 90, 90, 0.
Those are our only 2 restrictions other than the fact that what?
It can't be negative.
Yeah, we probably should have written cannot be negative. Okay, so if this y-axis continued to go up here, the shaded area would be everything above the green line and above the blue line. So we'd have a shape that went like this, okay? So all the way up here to that little corner, down here, and straight across. Okay. We are trying to minimize the cost. Does it make sense that the minimum would be one of those corners we found towards the bottom? Okay. So, but we need to look at this one, and this one. Because until we examine all of those, in the cost equation, we have no idea. I want to say it's going to be like this one because that's the lowest, right? But it totally could change based on the cost. If it was $1 for X and $75 for Y, that would make a big difference, right? So we don't know anything until we test them in the objective function. This point down here was 90, 0. And this point up here was 0, 180. How do we find this guy where the green and blue intersected? We could use a matrix. Look at the equations here. Couldn't I just add those together or subtract them? It says 4x plus y equals 180. The other one I'm going to multiply through by a -1. If I add them together, I get 3x equals 90, which makes x what? 30. And they had to add up to 90, it said right there. So y would have to be, okay, so you can use a matrix, but 30, 60 algebraically was pretty easy for that one. All right, so the test will have a place for you to write your objective function. Oh, yeah, that's not going to work so well.
I have a really good question.
Yes.
I think we talked about this yesterday, but I don't remember what you said. Why is it always one of the corners?
It's a theorem. I mean, it is a theorem that's in our book. We could test a bunch of points and prove it, but basically it's telling you that's the way it is. The corners were, no! I was going to write 0, 0. 0, 180. We won't have enough fertilizer if we put nothing, right? Okay. Why doesn't this point work right here, which was 90, 0, or 0, 90? It is below the other one. If you look, if you only bought 90 bags of brand B, would you have enough nitrogen? No. All right, so let's figure out the cost real quick. So 10 times 0 plus 5 times 180 is 900. 30 times 10 plus 5 times 60 is 600. And 90 times 10 plus 5 times 0 is 900. What are we trying to do? Minimize the cost. So, what's the best deal?
30 bags of type A and 60 bags of type B.
Okay, minimum cost of $600 for 30 brand A and 60 brand B. All right. I'd like to do another one of these. We have an option. We can talk about the kitty cats here. Or on the back, is one about vacuum cleaners. This one is very similar to the one on the test,
Let's do that one.
but we can do it today or tomorrow. If you want me to do this one tomorrow, the test is Monday. It doesn't matter. You're going to have the whole weekend to forget how we did it anyway, but
Let's do it twice. Let's do it
we,
today and then
you know what? We probably have time to do both of them. Riley is obsessed with cats, so we're going to do this one. Do you have cats, Riley? What are their names? Very good. All right. Silently read this question to yourself and tell me what X and Y will represent. So many words. If Siamese, those are how many of each? So the of each is the number of Siamese and the number of Persians. Yeah, it's a stupid question, I know. They are picky. So, all right, what are the limit? Oh, you want to get rid of the money first?
Yes.
Okay. The objective function, we're trying to maximize our income. Okay, so what do we make every time we sell a Siamese?
12.
And 10 for Persian. I think that's probably cheap for a purebred cat. Okay.
Oh wait, no. Oh yeah, that's cheap.
You can't give away cats unless they're purebreds, let me tell you. All right. Nobody wants cats. Do you know how many cats are at the shelter?
I don't know. I have 3 cats. So.
They just reproduce very quickly. All right, guys. What are the limiting factors here?
Okay.
Number of
The amount of food they need.
Okay. So we have to have what?
90 units.
Less than or equal to 90 tuna. I really don't want to write that word there because we're going to not have room. Okay.
80
Less than or equal to 80 liver and less than or equal to 50 chicken. Unfortunately, that means we're going to have 3 equations. It is a little painful. Okay. So what about tuna? We got the 90 tuna. What else do we know?
A Siamese cat.
Siamese cat needs
2 units.
2 tuna. So every time we have a baby kitty Siamese, we need 2 tuna. Persian cat needs how much tuna? Okay. Then what? For liver, 1 can of liver for a Siamese, 2 for a Persian, right? And then apparently the chicken is nobody's favorite because they...
We still like simple. Just plugging zeros and get easy numbers.
Okay. And if we were writing the hidden constraints, they'd have to both be greater than or equal to 0. Okay. So we're in the first quadrant. Which line do you want to start by graphing?
Let's do x plus y is less than or equal to 50.
Yeah, I kind of like that one. Okay. So I'm going to go about halfway up and halfway out and call it 50-50. Does that sound okay?
Makes sense.
0, 50, 50, 0. Now what? Okay, if I do the red one up here, if I put in a 0, I'd get out a 90. If I put in a 90 for the y, it'd say 2x equals 90, which would be 45. So a little bit below this one at 45, and up a bit at 90. Okay, then the purple one, nope, because it's not 90, it's 80. So it's 0 would be 40, and if y were 0, we'd have 80. So it's below here, and well, here's somewhere 80. They do not all intersect in a single point. I know my lines are horrible, but I think I have the scale roughly right. Okay. We could find the intersections of all three lines just to figure that out, but let's, first of all, somebody asked this yesterday, can we put them all in one giant matrix?
No, because it all intersect.
You have 3 equations. How many unknowns do you have?
2.
Okay. There could be a point where all 3 intersect, but the chances are pretty slim. Okay, if they don't. So no, we need to find the intersection between these two, and between those two, and then decide if they're all in the shaded area or not. Okay. There's actually one point of intersection we don't even need to find, but I'm just, guys, help me subtract this. If I did 1 minus 1, I'd have 0x. 2 minus 1 would be 1y. 80 minus 50 would be 30. So those two intersect with a y of 30. And down here it says x plus y is 50, so the x would be 20. So the purple and blue right here is 20, 30.
We don't really need to find this one, do we?
I don't think so, but we're going to talk about it real quick here. If we did it looks like we definitely have to do the blue and red. Can you subtract without me writing it down, guys? 2 minus 1, 1y minus 1y, 90 minus 50. What would we get? X equals 40. If they have to add up to 50, the y would have to be 40, and 20 is not 50. 40, 10 would be 50. All right. The question is the red and the purple. We'd have to do some algebra. Did anybody find the intersection of the red and the purple already? I don't even think it comes out nice. It's a nice disgusting y is like 23.3 or something. Yeah. The issue with where that intersection point is, if I plugged it back in, I don't know, it's like 30, I'm making up stuff now. But if you plug it back in here, I'm thinking that we're not going to have enough chicken. Look what I have here, 33 and 23. Is that going to add up to be less than 50? No, we have to be below the green line, and this point is not. Blue, whatever that blue is. Thanks. All right, so the region we're talking about is in here, which I didn't leave myself any room to share. Whoa, whoa, that was bad.
That color inside the limestone.
Yeah, I went outside the red one right there. Yes, apparently we do. Okay, so what are the points we're putting in our little chart?
23.
Oh, we need that point right there.
That would be
45.
0, 40. Yeah, it was 40. 0, 40. 20, 30. 40, 10. 45, 0, and 0, 0, which will get us no income at all. All right, if we only sold Persians, we'd get $400. All right, this one is a little trickier. I have 12 times 20 plus 10 times 30 would be 240 and 300, 540 maybe. 12 times 40 plus 10 times 10 is 580. 45 times 12 would be 90 times 6, 540 again. Did I do that right or not? Okay, so what are we trying to do? Maximize or minimize? Maximum income of 580. What?
Like, you can't just tell a cat, you're gonna have this amount of cats. Like, just this
Yes,
one-
I gotcha. Yes.
You're allowed to have this big of a litter, and if you don't, shame on you.
It was 40 Siamese, 10 Persians. Oh dear. What?
After the family, I have 45 years of
Oh, yeah, that.
It was so much cat.
All right. I'm going to talk about number 7. I think we have enough time to do this one. What are we making here?
Okay, starting a company, we're making back, so remote control back.
Who wants a big vacuum or a small vacuum?
I do. I want to sit on the couch and have it vacuum my house.
You just gotta have one of them robot things, one of those things that slide
That's
on
a
the
great
floor.
idea. Okay, yeah, so like Claire said, big vacuum and small. It could have been more creative because they ended up being
Miss Big and Mr. Big and Mr. Small. How cute.
Oh my god.
Now what?
Now we just make our profit expression. If they sell just one 20 on each big bag.
Plus 100 Y.
All right. We got rid of that number. We got rid of that number.
Yeah, we did.
I always look for the restrictions next.
Okay, so it takes from 2 hours to assemble a big bag.
Yeah, this is actually can be tricky for some students. There's actually 2 separate restrictions in that sentence. I can make at most 6 big vacuums. Period. So what does that mean I'm going to write?
Less than or equal to 6.
I actually bolded those. Like there's 3 blanks for equations on the test, and I bolded the 3 parts of the problem that tell you the 3 equations.
Oh, that was so kind.
Okay, what else? At most 8 small.
Y is less than or equal to 8. That's quite a bit.
Then there's a whole thing about hours. How many hours do we have to work with? 2 for a big and 1 for a Y, is that right? Or 1 for a small?
2 for a big and 1 for a Y.
Okay.
It's a rough day.
I wasn't going like this. I was going like this.
All right, so how do I graph x is less or equal to 6? Let me ask it like I asked yesterday. What kind of line is that? You all said?
Straight.
You knew what we meant by straight line, though.
No, I don't. Is it vertical or horizontal straight?
It's a straight line. It's straight. It doesn't matter what direction. It's straight. You know, Mr. Harris probably. That's right. Thought we were a little. But like this.
No, every class I've ever taught says the same thing. So
They
It's
really.
probably like this is on here. Talking about the straight.
You did sound prepared for that, though. You go, every line is straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I knew exactly what everybody was going to say.
The oracle.
All right. We only have to graph one more line. How do we graph this line right here? Could you, if you were doing it accurately, you could just do negative 2x plus 16. You could solve for y, right?
Yeah.
My problem is I didn't really do accurate, so doing a slope is not all that fun for me. If I put in a 0 for the x, it'll just say y equals 16. If I put a 0 in for the y, it'll say 2x is 16, which would be 8. 8, 0 would be a little bit past 6, 0. And 0, 16 would be way up here. Oh, how many points of intersection do we have?
20.
We all say too many.
It's actually not that bad because the horizontal and vertical lines are really easy to substitute the values in to find. Think about that. If you know this y has to be 8 everywhere on that line, right? Okay. So I'm going to ignore this and make my little chart down here, okay? So one of the corners at 0, 0. One of the corners at 0, 8. One of the corner is at 6, 0. But now I need to figure out these intersection points. This one is which two lines? It's the green and the blue on my picture, so it's those two. And I know the y value at that point has to be 8. So if I plug that in here to the other equation, it would say 2x plus 8 equals 16, which would be
4.
Well, you see, I just do the bottom.
okay. When we get down here, what is true? Which two lines are intersecting here, first of all?
2x plus y. And x.
Yeah, this one and this one, the purple and the blue. So we know what is true because it says it right here. X is 6. And then if I plug that into the blue equation, it'll say 2 times 6 plus what equals 16.
I was not accurate that time. I was a little more accurate.
Guys, I gave really nice graph paper on the test, so if you use a ruler and you're really accurate, I think you should be able to pretty much tell where they intersect, okay?
My line went both ways.
All right, what is our expression we're evaluating?
120x plus 101.
All right, I don't know if I did that right. Okay, so what's going on? the max, was it profit? It was profit, right? Is $12.80. If they make Well, I would want a small vacuum if I was going to run it remote control. Like
If you would run it
small
like-
as in,
Like handheld.
or little one, so that I could, so I could just kind of tell it, oh wait, you need to go back over that spot. And I don't want a big giant thing going around my house, right?